Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular battle, I'll be playing the Warriors of Chaos, and I have a bit of a different army than I usually like to bring. There's actually no Manticores, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this one. As far as my opponent, he's going to be playing the Dwarves over here, and I think he kind of went off in the corner of the map, which is definitely tough, because if they have cannons and you have to kind of march across, especially without Manticores to pressure those cannons, you can take a little bit of a beating, but it should be a fun time for all. So, as far as my army composition goes, I have some Marauder Horsemen here, and let's actually go ahead and play, because I know it's a lot of running before the battle actually starts, so should be able to get right into the business. So, two Marauder Horsemen. These are essentially just to deal with gyrocopters, which are pretty good against Chaos, although not as good anymore because Manticores can just shut down gyrocopters so hard. But, you know, considering I didn't bring any Manticores, I wanted to have these guys, and they're not terrible for chasing down routing Dwarf units, or even just throwing their axes at a group of, like, hammers or something like that, because they do have armor piercing, so pretty cool there. In my front line, I have a Chaos Warriors with great weapons, so I have 3 of those. Then I actually decided to mix it up a little bit, and I have 2 groups of Chosen, who are just absolute gangsters. These guys are just so cool, and really looking forward to seeing how they do this battle. I also have Aspiring Champion, so against the Dwarves, they're not the best against the Dwarves, but I always like to bring one just to have that encouragement around your troops, because, you know, if Kolek over here is out running about and is, kiting things and, doing other things, I like to have that encouragement with my army, especially since I brought 2 groups of Chaos Armored Trolls. So these guys are really fun, and they can devastate the Dwarfs pretty hard if you can, keep them from running off. So, a lot of Dwarf players will use the Rune of Wrath and Rune, or focus them with cannons, or, Quarreler Fire, things like that, and they can get shut down pretty quick, but let's hope for the best and see how they do. So I also have Kolek here, who's just an absolute beast. I mean, if he can avoid getting focus fired, and he can sit in kind of saturated battle and be there for a while and do his thing. There are a few lords that can do what he does, and his Lord of the Storm ability is actually really devastating. This it's actually called Lord of the Storm, so I did indeed get that right, but it hits so darn hard, and hopefully you guys will get to see that in this battle. I also have a Chaos Sorcerer with the Lord of Fire. Really like the buffs. The synergy with Kindle Flame is pretty good with the Chaos Lord, but more so just getting that 22% damage across all your armor piercing troops, and then also the Cascading Fire Cloak is really strong. So you can see these guys are going out and ready to have some fun. So my opponent actually has a pretty unique army as well. So he has 2 groups of Iron Breakers. He has Ungrim Iron Fist. He has a Runesmith. He has a cannon, which he's been shooting at my Chosen. And then he actually has 2 groups of Quarrelers here. He's got Hammers here and Hammers here. And then it looks like he has some Dwarf Warriors in the back line and Slayers, of course. So fairly elite infantry for them from the Dwarves. He has 2 groups of Iron Breakers and Hammers mostly, so it's an expensive army, but we'll see how it holds out. It'll be interesting, because you don't see a lot of Dwarf armies like this. And he does have these Quarrelers here who will do a pretty good job at focusing down these Marauder Horsemen. So without further ado, let's get started, and it looks like we already have started. So let's actually go ahead and fast forward a little bit, because there's a lot of shenanigans here, but it's game time, guys. So Kolek comes in here, and he's going to use Lord of the Storm, and just look at the damage it does. So it takes these 75 models down to 67, and this group of Quarrelers, it takes down to 53 models and does about 20% HP damage. So some great harass from Kolek, and he's able to scurry away from that missile fire with his speed, and he's really fast actually. He has 80 move speed, so he's as fast as a lot of cav, and is definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I believe he has a pretty massive charge bonus too, at 62. Definitely not bad at all. So I'm kind of just trying to circle around with these Marauder Horsemen and, just harass his flanks. And what I really wanted to do was just have throwing axes going at his hammers, because they're not shielded. So those little throwing axes can definitely wear at them. And unfortunately, my opponent is doing a pretty good job focusing this group with his Quarrelers. You can see he's kind of repositioned them to face the back, which is good, because they can also help with Kolek. So very well played there. The rest of the Chaos Forces are kind of, things are getting a little crazy here, but they're getting ready to charge in, and I have taken a bit of HP damage on these Chosen here. You can see he's focusing in with these cannons and getting massive results. He just took that troll out. I don't know if he's dead. He might get back up. No, he's getting up. He's just taking his time. So, man, they take a long time to get up. I feel like that's a lot longer than infantry. But they finally get up, so they're ready to party. And in the meantime, I'm kind of just trying to draw his fire with these Marauder Horsemen. So I'm just, like, riding circles, because one thing is they kind of have a cone of fire like this and like this. So if you kind of run, they have to, like, turn and readjust, and there's a lot of wasted firing time in there. Whereas if he was firing at my front line, it could be, a little bit worse in my opinion. So he is getting the satchel charges from the Iron Breakers, which disrupts my charge a little bit. You can see there's only a few of these Chaos Warriors getting in, and yeah, it's continuing to break the formation, which is pretty cool. Definitely true to their name, but unfortunately for these hammers over here, these Chaos Trolls are just going to absolutely punish them. Chaos Trolls, they have 100 weapon strength, and, again, these hammers will do good against them, but, just that massive charge and knocking them around, and especially being supported by just regular Chaos Warriors is pretty good. So over here, I was able to get the Aspiring Champs on these Slayers and kind of tie them down, and this is a really bad situation for the Slayers. These guys have 120 armor. You just see some Dwarf fly onto the camera there. But these Aspiring Champs have 120 armor, and also the throwing axes are probably hitting my guys more than they are the Slayers, but, I just wanted to wear these guys down so they couldn't get on Kolek, so that was the most important thing. But in the meantime, Kolek was able to circumvent, get a nice rear charge on these hammers, and he actually broke them. I mean, Kolek coming in with the rear charge, especially when they're being pressured by two groups of trolls, Chosen and Chaos Warriors, they're not going to last long. So these guys are routing off, unfortunately, but my opponent doing a very, very good job with his Coilers, kind of dealing with these harass units, and he does indeed break them, so very, very well played. So Kolek and the Trolls are going to get in here on these Dwarf Warriors, and you know, this is a pretty scary little mobile goon squad, because Trolls are also very fast. They have 54 run speed, so they're much faster than infantry. So, you know, when you team them up with Kolek, it's a very, very hard thing to kind of keep pace with. And you can see I'm just doing laps, because with Kolek, you never want to sit still. That allows missile troops to kind of get, you know, saturated fire on him, and he's so mobile, you got to take advantage of that and just ride around every chance you get. You know, he's even making these Marauder Horsemen look good, who are coming in and getting a nice little charge. But Marauder Horsemen and just straight up PvP against against the Coilers, they will lose in a one-on-one fight. But Kolek here is definitely doing some good work. So in the front line, he does have a nice pocket here. These Hammerers were able to do really good. He actually got a surround on these Chosen here. So he has the Iron Breakers kind of holding them in place with Ungrim, and then these Hammers were able to circumvent my flank and get a really nice charge here. So these Chosen, though they have really, really high leadership, they're probably going to break here in a moment. I don't know if he has the peak gate guard. I don't think he did, but that armor sundering might have been nice in this game. But thankfully, due to his back line collapsing, you can see all these Trolls coming in and just flying in and crushing these guys. But the Slayer King is here. He's definitely not ready to give up. The Trolls have some of the best attack animations, the kick animations, and then the throwing up on the guys. It's pretty over the top, but it's definitely looking bad for the Dwarves here. But Iron Breakers are one of those units that'll just sit and fight all freaking day. And he does have a Runesmith here, but that Lord of the Storm, I'm telling you, just is such a good ability. And it took them down from about 52, 53 models to 47, and actually lowered their leadership from confident to steady from that. So pretty darn good. My opponent still does have a very healthy Runesmith, so he's definitely got that going for him. But as far as the rest of the troops go, let's take a look. So we have some Iron Breakers here. He has Ungrim, who's in really, really good health. He has some Hammers here, and his Coilers are still continuing to pressure. I figured I needed Kolek more in the front line to kind of finish off his more elite troops, and the Coilers, you know, I can get back to them later. But he's doing a pretty good job zoning out my Cav here. But as far as the main forces go, Ungrim is definitely not going to break, and he still has 37 Hammers here, but Kolek coming in on the flank, you can see he takes out about 4 or 5 models there just with that one strike, and he's in really good health. Kolek, who's the Flaming Sword of Ruin, that's going to put his weapon strength up to 618. And one thing about him is it's very hard for the Dwarfs to deal with him if they don't have like an active missile line, because he's so fast and he can run through models. So even if there's like a formation, he can simply just stride right through them, and it's really, really hard to deal with in that respect. So the Chosen here continuing to fight. They're in great health. They're still confident, and even the Trolls are confident, which is definitely a bad sign. Not this group of Trolls. They're shaken, but the other one is indeed confident. You know, so they're doing a pretty good job. But Ungrim is, you know, it's definitely his destiny to slay some Trolls. So he's doing his best in here, but he's pretty surrounded. And I still think there might be some Iron Breakers fighting. Looks like they are indeed broken, so he doesn't have much left at this point. He still does have some Coilers firing into the Trolls, and I think that's why that other group was shaken, because they're taking that missile fire. So it just goes to show how easy they can break. And, you know, one of the downsides with the build that my opponent did bring is it's not by any means a bad build. It was a very interesting, unique build, but one of the issues is that, you know, when you do bring the missile troops like that and then you invest in a very expensive infantry like Iron Breakers, you're not going to have a lot of resources to protect your back line. You can see the Iron Breakers, what do they cost? Like 13, 1200, something like that. So that's like 3 or 4 groups of Dwarf Warriors apiece that can cover a lot more defensive ground, which then in turn allows your missile troops to do substantially more damage. So definitely a bit of a trade-off there. And I think, was that a Lord of the Storm I was trying to do there? We'll go ahead and fast forward here, because this is just one of those Ungrim matchups where Ungrim just sits there for, you know, 15 minutes and refuses to die, which is very admirable. But you know, again, it looks like it might be the end of day for the Dwarves over here. So Ungrim goes down, and the rest of the forces at that point do rout off. And what's still fighting? I think it's a Slayer. So yeah, it's pretty funny, those unbreakable units. Like I was telling you guys the other day, those Chaos players with the Chaos Dwarfs kind of just running around and and kiting you out till the timer runs out. Definitely a fun time. But anyways, army composition. So this group of Chosen got decimated. It just goes to show, you know, how good that cannon did. You know, even though those are 33 kills, and it did get shut down once the really, you know, the pitched fighting started, it still did really good. And also, you know, if he had maybe had like, you know, 2 cannons and, you know, cut the Iron Breakers and, you know, cut these Hammers and then get a bunch of Dwarf Warriors with, you know, the Grumbling Guard, he would have had, you know, an army roster going down to about right here where I'm clicking. And, you know, he would have been able to defend my back line and probably just would have been able to out-sustain me. But again, it's all just, you know, hindsight's 20/20. And, you know, this build may have been pretty good in you know, different circumstances. So who knows? But Ungrim did good, you know, obviously a trooper, and he was fighting elite infantry with Chosen, so definitely not going to rack up the most kills. But the Hammers were okay. You know, they definitely got kind of run down by the Trolls a little bit. You know, having the aspiring champions definitely makes Trolls a little bit more viable because they have that encouragement. And as you guys saw, I was running around with Kolek. He was, you know, doing laps in the back line and trying to find a nice niche to get a rear charge in. So my Trolls could have easily, you know, gotten to the brink of routing against those Hammers early on if they didn't have the support of that single group of aspiring champions. So very interesting there. Regardless, very good game to my opponent, Jesus Christ. I look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that Chaos Cast. Have an excellent night, and take care.